Welcome back to Allie's Anime Club. I'm AlleeCat.
I'm an amorphous golden bear
Okay.
named Chris, I guess.
And back again is our guest.
Hi, I'm Orion, also known online as Oriansenshi. Good to be here.
You know, I only just realized the coincidence of your name with this anime that we're watching.
yeah, it's actually really funny.
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. Um so things happened
Yes, they did.
in Dungeon Meshi. This is episodes 7 through 12 that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
The end of the Red Dragon arc.
Oh, yes. That took a... Oh, yeah, it takes a turn that
Yeah.
that hit me in certain sensibilities, certain interests that I didn't expect to see in this show. I was like, oh, awesome, necromancy.
Yep.
Yeah,
I do like that they explain a bit about like resurrection and how like if you want to restore like missing body parts or whatever, you need calories basically to replace them.
I mean, look, when I'm thinking about it, sitting here looking at it, I'm thinking, you know what? That really is like some blood sacrifice shit, but going back to just like, well, it's just calories. It doesn't have to be like blood. It could be whatever.
Yeah.
I can't, and I'm like, you know what? The way they put it kind of makes it seem like all magic is kind of like that. Like,
Mhm.
she runs out of, what's her name? Runs out of, what's her name? Meryl?
Marcel.
Marcel. Yeah, I need to start writing names down. I'm terrible with names, but she runs out of mana like twice or something in this little 6-episode span. The second 6 we did here, 6 to 12,
Right.
and both times she's just like wiped out, like she hasn't slept.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? This is kind of feeling like that's related to that calorie thing too, and eating apparently helps, but not fully, so it takes a while.
Right. And apparently there are different like things that you can eat that help with that have more mana in them than other things.
Like a water spirit.
Yeah, an
or
undine.
like the herbs that they specifically gathered for Marcel to eat to regain her mana. That that in the first batch of episodes, Senshi used to stuff the basilisk when he cooked it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, the medicinal herbs.
Yeah.
Some real foreshadowing there.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm gonna need those. No, you're fine. I love that he said he stood by his decision too. She was like, no, it needed that. It needed that extra seasoning.
I also like the Kelpie episode near the beginning of this batch. It's very interesting, I think. To see like
Oh, the metahuman discussion.
yeah, well also like specifically the conflict with the Kelpie and how like Senshi's like, "Oh, she's great. She wouldn't hurt me."
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets on and she tries to drown him.
It's very horse-like behavior. Just saying.
That part actually kind of intrigued me a little bit because, like,
Mm-hmm.
we don't know all of how what's his name's party died there, right? We saw something about the fishmen and something or other, but like, that has me kind of wondering, like, between the Kraken coming up and the Undine and the increased amount of the blade fish, if there might have been something going on there, some kind of an effect in that area that made things more aggressive than they would normally be, that was affecting the Kelpie.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe the big kraken with the big parasites with the little parasites. I don't know. But speaking of big parasites and little parasites, ew, gross.
Yeah. I I like how Laios tries one raw and then he immediately gets fucking food poisoning.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
remember-
like
Go
like you see him thinking about it too. You see
Yeah.
the process. You see him looking at it, and it's like there's a lot of build up to it as he's really thinking about it.
Should have thought a little harder.
Yeah, probably. He's
I-
like,
I'm-
well, it's a parasite. It couldn't have parasites, could it?
You know, I could see that thought process too, where you're like, why would the parasite have parasites? It is the parasite.
Yep.
But I'm also thinking, as a guy who has gone fishing and pulled a fish out, and then usually when you pull fish out, you don't like kill them or anything immediately. You just kind of leave them there, which is a little unsafe. Sometimes you kill them, or not unsafe. Word I'm looking here. It's not nice.
Inhumane.
Yeah, that's there you go. Inhumane. But if when they do, the reason you do that, or some people do it, is because when they die, parasites start, squirming their way out, and it's very visible and pretty gross. Whereas if you let them live, you can, they cause more damage to the fish and stuff when they're working their way out. But yeah, I've seen that happen in person, and it's pretty gross.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just like, well, if he has to have gone fishing at some point, this is this world, he
Yeah.
should know better. But yeah, it's gross. It actually, I will say, it was a fairly accurate representation of what they look like, just on a larger scale.
Right.
Yeah. That's why it was particularly gross to me, because I was just thinking back. I was like, yeah, that is what that looked like. Ew.
I've caught one fish in my life. And then I ate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole thing with the fish and the Kelpie and the parasites was really interesting. And I think a little bit before that, when you see the other party getting revived or whatever, find out they were just stunned by the bugs. Like, I think it's interesting those like dungeon delvers or whatever that were like looking for their bodies were like didn't tell them that they'd been gotten by treasure bugs and let them think that they'd been robbed.
Yeah, that's going to cause some conflict later.
Oh, yeah.
And then the whole thing, whenever they find their body, Laios does not recognize the other tall man or human.
Yep.
He recognizes the dog person, which is what they call a kobold.
A kobold, yeah.
Yeah.
I do love that one of the first questions is, how did they get ahead of us? I love that.
Yeah.
Also, I picked up that tall man thing during this episode. I don't know how long they've been saying that. Maybe they'd said it prior to this, or not during this episode, but during this little span.
Yeah,
segment.
humans are called tall men.
And I'm like,
and-
you know what? That's I like that.
And
Is it-
halflings are called half-foots.
I was like, that seems more appropriately. That seems like a good in-universe name.
Yeah.
Because like, if it was humans and like 40 other races, they're all gonna have like non-scientific names and stuff. It's gonna be the first thing that popped up. Maybe they'll call themselves something else, but commonly called, etc. It makes sense for humans to have a name like, oh yeah, tall guys.
Yeah. They're tall. They're tall
Yep.
men.
That's what they are.
Also, we get some hints at the wider politics of the world with the animosity between elves and gnomes.
Yeah. That whole thing was really interesting with the gnome that was in Namari's party.
Yeah. Also, real quick, shout out to Namari. I really like her character, and she's voiced by a non-binary person.
Oh, neat.
I
Which is
did
cool.
notice they had a voice that was kind of like that. I was wondering about that when watching.
Chiltruck is also voiced by a non-binary person in the English dub. I'm talking about the English dub specifically. I don't know if Orion watched the English dub or the Japanese
I watched
dub.
the English dub.
Okay.
We're all sinners.
Yep.
I
But all of the English voice actors are really good.
I didn't know. So there's a gnome. You said there's a gnome in their party, or did I mishear that?
In Namari's party. In the
dwarf.
the dwarf lady.
The redheaded dwarf lady.
Yeah.
They're a gnome.
No.
Oh no, that their party is there.
Yeah, they have the two
gnome healer.
gnomes. Yeah.
Wow, I must not. Oh wait, the
Yeah,
old
he.
dude.
Yeah,
Yes.
the old dude with the big nose.
I did not even clock him as a gnome.
Yeah,
I
he's
don't. Yeah, that really, I didn't clock him at all as a gnome. That completely flew past me.
Yeah, he's a gnome, and they talk a little bit about like gnomes and elves not getting along because of the different ways that they use magic.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's weird is I saw them not getting along, and I heard it was because she was an elf, but I didn't catch why they didn't get along. I was just like, oh, he doesn't like elves. Okay,
Yeah.
typical fantasy thing.
No, it's it's because gnomes are more like nature magic focused, and elves are more like
Wild magic? I don't know what ancient
Yeah.
magic is.
yeah, they're more like arcane, like they do more like mathematical whatever.
Wait,
So it's like between wizards and druids. If you're
Yeah,
familiar
kind
with
of like
D&D.
that.
my symbols are cool, man.
Yeah.
But that was interesting, and also seeing. I think some of the most interesting stuff for me with this patch of episodes was the stuff we saw outside about the outside of the dungeon, right? When we saw the meeting between the gnome and the leader of the island that let us know that the story is taking place on an island, and that this is the only dungeon that has that immortality spell on it, and that the gnome is trying to find the source of the immortality spell so that way they can duplicate it and be able to use that so they can have access to that immortal life, which I kind of mentioned that like if you wanted to live forever and study arcane stuff, the best place to live would be in a dungeon, and it's nice to see that fulfilled, but like that's the thing
Right.
that they're talking about.
They're trying to like research how to like reverse engineer that and use it everywhere.
Yeah.
I really like the living painting thing.
Oh yeah.
with the was he purple? Look, I'm color deficient. Or were they? Purple?
Yeah. He's the little elf boy.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, that whole foreshadowing bit.
Yeah,
And-
he's gonna come back.
I don't know the character here. They showed the character at the end of the 12th
Right.
episode there.
They haven't named him in the canon yet.
I mean, I'm liking that there's a lot of foreshadowing stuff going on. I mentioned that in the previous segment there, but I like that you're just getting like, here's this thing that's gonna come up later. Chekhov's gunning stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So
There's a very funny part in the living painting episode that kept getting like shared around on Tumblr when it first came out, where Chiltruck is pointing out one of the paintings, and he's like, "There's even a naked guy dancing," and then Laos immediately goes, "Perfect, let's go."
Never got to see that naked guy.
Oh goodness.
Just his line delivery is great.
Yeah. The one of the things about the gnome was like when the gnome was like, "Charity will bleed you dry in a dungeon." Anytime I see characters like that are like, I don't do anything unless like I don't help other people out, even if it's at no cost to myself. It frustrates me a little bit.
Right. But he does kind of come around by the end,
Yeah.
which is nice.
Also, it's hilarious that Senshi has a whatchamacallit adamantine pot and lid.
Skillet, yeah.
Oh, it was a mithril.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and a mithril cooking knife.
Yeah.
This man is just filled with crazy, ridiculous fantasy metal cookware.
I love that he doesn't even know.
Well, he knew the cooking knife was mithril because that's why he intentionally didn't show it to Namari, because he didn't want her to like rip his head off.
Right.
Meanwhile, his axe is just falling to pieces.
Yeah.
It eventually
Yeah.
shatters.
Yeah.
That's very funny. One thing that I definitely wanted to mention. So in the episode with the Kelpie and like Senshi not bathing, that's sort of brought up in the anime. It's at least as far as I can tell, it's just kind of like flavor, where it's Marcel's saying like, "Oh yeah, if you don't take care of your like personal hygiene, you like magic doesn't work as well on you." And in the manga, there's a shot that got cut out of the anime, but when Marcel is doing the resurrection spell, she specifically like runs her bloody hands through her hair, which is like symbolic of like, this is wrong magic. This is magic that does not behave like the magic we've seen before, right? Because she's like getting herself dirty to do this instead of being clean, because she's like so fastidious about her appearance and about her hygiene, and now she's specifically like dirtying herself up.
It did kind of very much hit that trope of, we're summoning a demon to ask it 3 questions and grant us a wish, and we have to get every single line of this circle correct or it's going to murder us vibes.
Yeah. I also, in that whole process of like sorting through the bones and getting ready for the resurrection spell, I find it hilarious that like Laios' contribution to all of this was not identifying his sister's bones. It was identifying which bones belong to the wargs.
Yeah.
Encyclopedic knowledge of just monsters.
Yeah.
Yes.
Except for when it's useful.
And
That
then Marcel is like piecing together all the wrist bones.
Oh god, that seems like hell.
Yeah. I saw somebody post like fan art of the Dungeon Meshi characters like all sitting around in a circle putting together an actual jigsaw puzzle of Fallon.
I think one of my favorite scenes was where the mage lady was concerned with Senshi and the other guy when they killed the frogs, and the one's making a friggin' frog suit and the other one's
Yeah.
cooking, and she's stuck between the two of them. Like, okay, who do I tell to stop doing what they're doing?
Yeah. And then they get to the bottom, and like after doing the whole thing, and oh my gosh, the whole thing when they're like, how do we convince her to wear the frog suit? And they're like, we think you'll look really cute in it. And the next scene is just her with a deadpan look.
Yeah. they're still going like, you look really great in that, and then she's like, shut up.
Then they get to the bottom, and it ruins her clothes because the blood coagulated onto her clothing.
Amazing.
I also really like how they take out the dragon in the end, where fucking Laios launches himself at it.
Yeah.
And like purposefully gets his leg bitten off so he can reach the soft spot, the inverse scale.
That inverse scale being located right there, like it kind of threw me for a loop a little bit because like I don't want to say it broke my immersion, but it just felt really gamey. But like I had to be like, well, you know what? They're in a dungeon. This is a dungeon crawling anime, so like.
Well, also that's like been in other like fantasy stuff. That was in The Hobbit, right? Because Smaug has like the scale that he has to be shot in to be taken down.
I think that stems from armor in general. I don't know if it's
right.
I don't know if it's a thing with actual lizards. It might be, but there's just armor in general. They're always like, medieval armor and such. It was always aimed for the joints because the joints are the weak spots. So they're like, okay, so where would the joint on the dragon be that isn't too obvious to make the dragon easy peasy, but still, small enough, a challenge, but a doable challenge. And that's just kind of been the dragon mythology thing for, probably since I was, at least since I was a kid. I remember picking up books on like how to draw dragons and stuff, and they had like a book of all these different types of, it was probably D&D related, but I wasn't into that at the time, so I didn't know. But
okay, so I just thing too. I just looked it up. Apparently it's a Japanese folklore thing, specifically the inverse scale. Where like a dragon will have an inverse scale that's their weak spot, basically. So it's actually a lot older than video games.
I knew it was old, but I didn't know that old.
Yeah. I mean, it was one of those things where like it didn't necessarily feel like video gamey. It felt more like a D&D kind of thing. But like when it comes from mythology, like I don't come from that mythology, so it's kind of. But that was also really interesting. But also one other thing they mentioned that was really cool in that episode was seeing Marcel be really powerful as a healer.
Right.
Like reattaching Laios' entire leg, and then like. Cool. Yeah, and the whole thing about healing pains where when you get healed, it's going to itch under your skin or you're going to feel the pain of the injury multiple times over. It reminded me a little bit of Recovery Girl from My Hero Academia. Who you just... When
I don't
she
think
heals,
I ever got that far.
She's like the school nurse of UA.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Yeah, when
That's
she
right.
heals people, they feel all of the pain that injury would have given them over the entire time it would take them to heal, but it's condensed into one moment.
Right.
I'm sorry. I was thinking you could play that for comedy really well. I haven't
Well,
seen
yeah,
My Hero
that's
Academia, but yeah, it sounds like you could play that for
that's
comedy really well.
that's what they did in Dungeon Meshi.
Yeah, with Senshi being like, no, I'll heal normally.
No,
It'll be fine."
I'll heal normally. It's fine. It's fine. And then she's just like, "Come here. It'll only take a second." And then they just cut away, and you hear him screaming.
Poor man got his back broken by a dragon foot.
Yeah. And I also like how when she heals Laios, he doesn't even like react at all. He's just like, "Oh, thanks," which is like, does this man just have like godly pain tolerance or something?
Well, my one thought is that he's in shock, but my
Uh-huh.
other thought is that, like, considering he wants to eat everything else, I can imagine him like debating eating his foot.
Wonder what my own leg.
You know, there was actually
Yeah.
a few years ago somebody recently got to figure out what their own foot tasted like.
Yeah, they had it. Wasn't it a surgery
They had to
thing that had to be removed?
so they got in like a motorcycle accident and their foot had to be amputated. And so they got a bunch of friends together. They they asked the doctor, like, "Can I keep the foot?" And then they got a bunch of friends together and made tacos.
Foot tacos.
Yeah.
Oh,
Apparently it tasted really gamey.
I bet.
Gamey.
Anyway, back to eating monsters.
Back to eating monsters.
The fact that, like, Senshi made a pizza out of the dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of all the things.
Of all the things, a
I was
pizza.
I was thinking, like, you got these giant slabs of meat. Obviously, it ended up being kind of chewy, we found out.
Right.
But what I was thinking steak. That was my first thought. I was like, they're going to
Yeah.
be steaks.
Well, they did make steak. They
Yeah.
made steak and pizza and
I didn't expect pizza at all.
yeah,
At all.
pizza would be kind of weird to have like a steak type meat on, but I like that he used the dragon scales to
As a
cook the
cooking-
pizza.
Yeah, because the
Yeah.
heat of the dragon scales. And then he used the burning dragon because he set the dragon on fire. He used its burning insides as an oven.
Yeah.
Very ingenuitive.
Yeah.
Also, the bath scene with Marcel and Fallon in the bath. That's definitely been hotly talked about in terms of Marcel Fallon shipping.
I bet.
They seem like real good friends.
They're very good friends.
Yep. They were roommates.
Yeah, there's a. It's not like confirmed canon, but there's a lot of hints.
Maybe they're cousins. Sailor Moon.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
they're cousins.
They're cousins. But you know something that caught me off guard was I think I looked away for a moment, so I actually missed why this happened. But Senshi got his helmet off, and I didn't know what to expect. It was interesting looking.
Oh yeah.
I kind of expected a lot more hair. I don't know. I thought maybe it'd be poofy hair or something because his beard's all like that, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I didn't see that coming.
Fun fact: Ryoko Kui has said that canonically, Senshi has a lot more body hair, but she just doesn't draw it because it would be a pain.
I can
So
body hair.
so
you
like
know.
he's got his bare legs out all the time, and they're actually very hairy, but she doesn't draw that because it would take too long.
Just turn him into a friggin' tiny Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She's drawn like what he would look like with a lot more body hair before.
Oh, okay.
I am curious what that looks like.
Let me see if I can find it.
I would say one other thing that is like not exactly related to the dragon stuff, but a little bit before that, whenever Marcel was having her flashback to how she met Fallen, and talking about her time in wizard school, right? And that whole thing about the different dungeons and the Dungeonium, and it was really cool to see how much like Laios Fallen is.
Yeah.
Like
oh
she's-
yeah.
Yeah, it's really it's kind of funny that like everybody's really like quiet when Fallon's about to try the dragon, and they're like they're like, is this really okay? Like the dragon ate Fallon and now we're gonna eat it. What?
And since
then
she's
she-
just like, take revenge on that dragon.
Yeah. And then Fallon is the first one to take a bite. She's like, it's delicious. And they're like, oh, okay.
Speaking of eating the dragon, before they said, "Oh, it's gonna explode," and they were just like, "Oh no, he shouldn't do that." My first thought was, did that like ancient magic like fuck it up or something and make it poisonous? What happened here?" That was my first thought.
No, it was because
Just
it ate.
explosive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because the dragon's fuel sack.
Yeah, but my first
I also
thought, because of
I also
the whole
like
thing-
that explanation of like, oh, they instead of dropping its like the undigestible stuff as like pellets, like a different animal who like eats things whole would, it turns it into fuel.
Yeah.
For its fire breath. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was very interesting.
They go into a lot of unexpected detail.
I thought it was really funny. The whole thing with Laios' sword abandoning him
Mm-hmm.
when he was fighting, and the sword just like, nope. The sword, nope. Out.
Kensuke's like, nope, not gonna do that.
The sword's like, nope. And then whenever like Chilchuck confronts him about it, and he's like, well, it was warning me of other monsters, and they're like, we wondered why you were so perceptive. And then
Yeah.
after he explains it, Chilchuck's like, well, all things considered, if I was in your position, I probably would have kept it too if it was acting as a warning. But you should have told somebody. I'm like, yeah, he definitely should have told somebody.
He should have told them. But I also like how he shows the sword to Fallon, and Fallon's like, "Oh my god, that's so cool! Oh, you were eating monsters the whole time? Wow, what monsters did you eat?" And Marcel's
He's in a
just
pod.
like, I'm so disappointed in you.
Mental image broken.
Yeah.
Though, speaking of whenever Fallon was like interacting with the sword, there was this funny scene in the anime where, I don't know if it was in the manga or not, but like where Fallon reaches towards the sword whenever it has its like tentacles and eyeballs out, and like it brings its tentacles back and it moves its tentacles like it's getting ready to punch, like put up your dukes or whatever, and then it just like sucks back into the sword. And
Yeah.
Fallon's like, oh, it went away.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was specifically for the anime. I really like some of the Studio Trigger style action sequences in this batch. Like when
Yeah.
they're running from the Undine, there's a lot of like really good smear frames in there.
That headshot was friggin' visceral.
Oh yeah.
That was brutal.
Yeah.
If there's one thing that Trigger is very good at, it's action scenes.
Yeah, and also the scene where Marcel explodes underneath the pan and sends Lyos flying, and it has that like
Uh-huh.
close up shot of Lyos's face. It was like the entire animation style changed for Lyos's
Yeah.
face in that moment.
Yeah. That's definitely a Trigger thing.
Though I'm also wondering, as the story goes on, if the fact that they raided the orc's pantry is going to come up in the future. Because remember, they had the whole thing when they stayed at the orc house, and they raided the orc's pantry for all kinds of like supplies and stuff in order to make food. And like they raided the wine thing again to get wine to cook with. And what was it? Marcel was like, "You can't drink wine to Chilchuck," and Chilchuck's like,
I'm an adult.
He's older.
Yeah. He's fucking 30 years old.
Just
he said
small.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is true, but I saw when I was watching some videos of like clips and stuff of the show, someone was saying in the comments that apparently like Chilchuck is like a divorced father of 3.
Oh my
Yes,
God.
that we find that out later, and we meet his kids.
I look forward to that moment.
He is a dad.
So someone said in one of the comments on one of the videos I saw on YouTube that of when Senshi's trying to explain the birds and the bees, they said it's hilarious to have this dwarf hermit who probably has never interacted romantically with anyone, who has been living alone, explaining the birds and the bees to a divorced father of 3. But yeah, the continued stuff with Chilchuck is funny.
Hmm.
Though that also brings up something else. When with the episode when they were like, um, don't do anything for free or whatever, and Marcel is getting mad at Namari for leaving and is like, I can't believe I thought we were close, and Namari's like, I gotta do work for money, right?
Yeah.
And Chilchuck's like, don't trust anyone who doesn't do something, who doesn't demand something in return. And Marcel's like, wait a minute, so you're just here for money too? And he's like, I'm just fulfilling my contract. And that got me
Yeah.
wondering, what are the terms of his contract? Is his contract where he's contracted until the dragon's dead? Like, what are the because I don't think Miles had the money.
Yeah, well, it's I don't know what the exact terms of his contract are, but he's basically like he's union basically. So that's another thing that like another meme that gets thrown around in the Dungeon Meshi fandom is that is about Chiltruck being a union man and being like, I'd love to help you, but it's my mandated break right now.
I really enjoyed Chilchuck's Mimic episode.
Yeah.
And learning that the coin bugs eat mimics,
Yes, that was interesting.
which would explain random chests filled with gold in a dungeon. Or
Yeah.
treasure.
Which I'm surprised I haven't seen coin bugs as a thing in like fantasy media as much before. Like, I'm not saying this is that they invented it. Just I personally haven't seen the mention of bugs that pretend to be treasure as a thing before this.
Someone put a lot of thought behind this series.
Oh.
Obviously, probably the mangaka or whatever, but in regards to the natural order of things. in there. Food chain, etc.
Yeah.
So not only I just looked it up. Not only is Chilchuk a union man, he created the union.
That's my
he
boy.
he specifically made a guild for half-foots, and like advises them to run contracts by the guild before they sign, because apparently like half-foots get like exploited a lot in adventuring, and so he made a guild specifically for that.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I could see that. Yeah, that makes sense. It's important to have some sort of protection.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, Chilchuk very good.
I was hoping he like okay, I understand he's supposed to be like a rogue, but he's like when I think of a rogue, a lot of times because of my experience with D&D and with TTRPGs in general, I associate rogue with like being having so many skills, but also like in combat being the critical attack, the one who finds the weaknesses and exploits them for massive damage, right? And like
Right.
Chilchuk being like completely, I have no combat skills. Don't expect me to fight.
Yeah. I like that, and they specifically don't call him a rogue because of that. They call him a picklock because he mostly deals with like the locks and the traps and stuff.
He's the town thief you have to bring into the dungeon because, well, he might not know how to fight, but we need somebody who can deal with these locks, and doors, and traps.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Honestly,
he's the dungeoneer, basically.
he would make a good D&D character just in general. Just make it like skip the attack, make him good at talking
Yeah.
Yeah.
alongside the lock picking and stuff. Because that's basically what his character does in the show here. He's handles talking to people
I
and
mean,
not being a weirdo.
I've made a bard character who's kind of like that, who's mostly just like, oh, all of my spells are utility and my and I just have a bunch of skills.
That's fun.
Yeah. But yeah, we're coming up on 45 minutes. Anything y'all like specifically wanted to talk about?
I like the scale and exploration requirements involved in uh, dealing with dragon organs.
Oh yeah.
They have like a human-sized tunnel they had to carve through the
Yeah,
dragon.
they're like mining out this tunnel in the
Yeah.
dragon.
It's pretty brutal, and at the same time, I'm like, yeah, that seems a lot more realistic than every other depiction of a dragon I've seen.
Yeah.
And then they even had to go around the bone because they're like, well, this can cut through the scales and stuff, but it can't handle that.
Yeah. So they have to like go around the bones.
A little weird that the stomach was empty, though. I expected like stomach acid or something.
Yeah. This is a little weird. You would
Yeah.
think it would have like eaten something recently.
Yeah.
Because it has been rampaging. And for it to have been rampaging for the like better part of a month that it took them to get down there, and all it's eaten is Fallon and 2 wargs.
Yeah.
Maybe
You
foreshadow.
Could be.
could be. I'm not saying.
Dun dun dun.
I will say that Kensuke the sword being scared to fight the dragon is more foreshadowing than you might think.
There's only 2 characters that I can remember the names of, and they're a sword and a cook.
Well, Senshi's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Senshi's Senshi.
Yeah.
But there is a character later on named Izitsumi, which
Sounds like a question a little bit. I know it's Japanese, but it sounds like a question.
also the best character.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, that's all I had though.
Yeah, I'd say that was pretty much all I had, too. As far as like, I know some of what happens next because I looked ahead because I was curious because I wanted to know before I let myself get emotionally invested, and like, even knowing what I know, I still want to believe that they all just live happily ever after, exploring the dungeon and cooking lots of fun things.
I only know what's been spoiled in this conversation, and Dad bod Senshi.
Yeah.
I enjoy Senshi.
Yeah, so I was going to ask if we wanted to do the next 6 episodes, but that would put us in the middle of an arc, and the last 6 episodes of the season aren't going to be coming out until July. So, I say we pick this back up in July, and we go on to a different anime.
I mean, yeah, I'd be fine with that.
All right. So yeah, that's gonna be it for today. Orion, you want to plug your stuff?
Yeah. I am a variety streamer. I do a variety of content. I am on YouTube. I am on Twitch. You can find me on there. My name is Oriansenshi, Oriansenshi. So you can find me on Twitch and on YouTube. I'm also on Twitter and Blue Sky Social, and I even have a Facebook, and all that jazz. But I'd be glad to have anybody who wants to come by and say hi.
All right.
In the far-flung future of 20XX on XX day and XX month, I will be found somewhere doing something that may be of interest to someone else.
Perhaps.
Maybe.
And, you already know what I do. This is my channel. Yeah, so we'll be back next time with a different anime and a different guest, but Orion will be back.
Dun dun dun.
So yeah, we don't have a sign off or anything. Just bye-bye.
Bye bye.